Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Thursday night session of the Sports Crib, brought to you by the Sports Crib Network. Um, get things lined up a little better here. Uh, okay. Uh, yes, welcome to another Thursday evening of the Sports Crib. I am James E. King III, as you can see over there in the corner, known on a lot of social media as West Coast Steelers fan. You can see our channel on YouTube, and you can please subscribe and donate using the Cash App $ JE King 3. Okay, all of the commercials are uh, out of the way now. Let's get on with the show. I see Mr. Carroll is waiting there in the wings. Uh, Hopefully, we'll be seeing Mr. Scott soon. How are you doing, Bill?
It has been a very long, short week. So a lot of stuff to get through. A lot has happened, but here I am.
Well, we yes, it has been, as you said, a very eventful week. But so far, hopefully the best is yet to come. But that's another show, and we'll talk about that later. But there are still a lot of repercussions coming out of New York, Brooklyn in particular, especially with the Nets and Kyrie. Today, Nike co-founder Phil Knight came out and said that their relationship with Kyrie is over. There's basically he went past that line that you couldn't cross. We can put a first calf hatch on the line he shouldn't have crossed, the horse he shouldn't have rode, and the color speaks for itself. But anyway, that's uh, that's me a little veteran to understand that one. But anyway, uh,
A
but
bridge too far. I mean, all of those. Yes.
but Bill, I mean, Nike is owned by a Jewish family corporation. However you want to go, but down through the ownership file, as well as the Brooklyn Nets, and the NBA also has a commissioner, I believe, by the name of Silver.
That is also correct.
Which in another century would probably be a little longer than Silver, but so I mean, talk about going into a situation with eyes wide shut here. Now we have the president of the Players Association, CJ McCollum. And of course, as I had mentioned before, Kyrie is the vice president,
Yep.
But he says Kyrie didn't understand what he was putting up there. I guess they say the same thing when they talk about his flat Earth theories too. But what's your thoughts here, Bill? I mean, when you bite the hand that feeds you, you either get euthanized usually, or you at least get shipped somewhere else.
So I'm sure you are familiar with the term "a little knowledge is a dangerous thing." And Kyrie is one of those dudes you run into in the barbershop, right? Who's found a little piece of information, part of a little piece of information about something, and has filled in the gaps in his knowledge with stuff he's heard other people say, his own wild imaginings, and other stuff. I've read all the stuff that he thinks he's read. I've read the source materials. You know this. if nothing else, I am a researcher. And I've listened to the speeches of Father Coughlin. I've read the stuff that Henry Ford and his people used to put together the protocols and the learned elders of Zion and all of this stuff. And all the blood libel stuff and all that. I mean, whatever. So there are legitimate issues you can have with Jewish people because there are things that Israel and the Jewish people have done that are very legitimately problematic. But the stuff he's on about, wowzers. You don't have time on this show for all of it. And there's even very, 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 very old family lineage of what's called the Cohens and others who are very much black. Stuff going back to Falashes and the Marrow and Kush, and I don't know how far they would have gone on this path, and even all the way down to South Africa. They've found matrilineal mitochondrial DNA that not only do they practice Judaism, but they can prove they're related to some of the oldest Jewish bloodlines going back thousands of years. That stuff is true. However, the stuff that they're talking about is a delightful souffle of imagination, prejudice, and batshittery. So the term sophomore is a term that I'm really attracted to. Now, he didn't actually make it to being a sophomore. He was a first semester freshman when he left college. Ironically, so was Kanye West. But as I said, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. While you don't need to be a college graduate to be a smart person, lots of brilliant people didn't finish college, or even ever stepped a foot in a college campus. There's something about learning just a little bit about something, just a little teeny bit about something, right? And then taking that little tiny bit and blowing it up bigger and bigger and bigger. Kyrie Irving is a guy who's convinced that he knows stuff that other people don't know, despite the fact he's not a researcher, despite the fact that he doesn't read. Or actually, he doesn't read. He doesn't read enough of the right things. To truly understand any one thing, you have to read what the root of it is, both the people that support and their opposition. If you only read the people that support your ideas, there's no brakes on your car, right? Your car only has an engine. If you only read the stuff that says, yeah, everything you say, everything you know is true. You have to also read the things that tell you everything you know is wrong, right? I listened to a lot of the same speakers and a lot of the same whatevers that he listened to while I was in college. No, I didn't leave after one semester because, of course, I didn't have an MBA draft waiting for me. So I stayed all throughout the fall, all those 4 years, and later got a master's degree. That doesn't make me smart, but it makes me determined. And it means I have to read a lot, right? They don't hand those things out because you didn't read. So I had to read people that I didn't agree with, along with the people I did agree with, right? I read so many things about so many people. Does that make you smart? No, but it makes you well-rounded. That's the difference. So I didn't just read Khalid Muhammad, though I did, right? I read him and a lot of other people that clearly he's familiar with. But I also read the people that shot holes in their stuff, right? So it's good to know both sides, right? And that way you find the path that you will decide to walk. If you only know one side, there's no decision. You only know one path. I'm not even mad at Kyrie. I'm not even really disappointed. I expect, once again, the guy has one semester of college. He's not a dumb person or an unintelligent person, but he's an uninformed person who thinks he's an informed person, and that is what makes him dangerous.
Bill, have you ever watched In Living Color?
No, I haven't watched it. I know people who were part of the cast. Shout out to Takia Prisco Kamen, a Chicago girl who's still friends with one of my ex-girlfriends. Yes.
Do you remember the skit where I think it's Keenan plays the convict, and he goes into
I know exactly what you're talking about. His brother, and his name is Tyrone. Oh, what is it? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But having spent time in the penal system,
right,
I've run across many people like this.
Those people exist. They are real.
You read, one chapter,
yep,
and you're a scholar.
Yep.
and you spend the day reading the dictionary.
Right.
So, like you said, you have all of these words. You don't know how to use them.
When, where, or how? No, none of that.
you know. So I kind of think of Kyrie like this, and of course I've made fun of his flat Earth theory, and then of course I did some research into it, and uh, there are places where you can find people that subscribe to this
Yes.
theory
Oh
very
yeah.
reverently,
Of
so
course. Yes.
although things may sound a little wacky, I guess would be the word to us, to some people these are perfectly logical.
Yes. There are
As
people very much.
as the convict in Living Color, this is logical, and let me
Right.
irrigate
Allow me
these
to ventilate my wisdom. Yes, I am very familiar with the. Yeah, I
so,
am very familiar with it.
so I mean, but once again, it kind of goes to some things that Dr. Casey has said on some of our other shows. There's
Oswald Bates. Sorry, I just remember the name. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, there are some things that you just don't say out in public.
Yep.
It's like the example I use of the guy that has the Trump sign in his yard, but after the election he takes it down. Well, I mean the statement's been made, you know. But one point that was made this morning on Undisputed is that even though he made his apologies on paper, it seems that they want that personal apology. They want to look in his eyes and see whether or not he means it.
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
I mean,
While I certainly understand, especially as when you are a proud person and you're a proud Black person and a man on top of all those things, being told to go hat in hand to anybody, even if you actually are wrong, even if you know you're wrong, is something that people are going to push back against in more often than not. So I sort of drew the comparison or the connection between Kyrie and Kanye, right? And once again, things they have in common. People who think they are smarter than they actually are. Though they're smart, they think they're smarter than they actually are. Two, they both, once again, coincidentally spent one semester in college. And or maybe not coincidentally, spent one semester in college. And they also see themselves as these bringers of light. They both see themselves as these people who sort of rise above others and are here to deliver wisdom, right, that others do not have. And that kind of belief in yourself, that kind of has helped to make them who they are, right? Part of why they are so successful is that dogged, unbelievable, undentable, intractable belief that they are great and brilliant, right? Not just great, but great and brilliant. What that's based on, the greatness is obvious. They're both actually great at what they do. The brilliant part, a little harder to understand how that got there. I would like to point out that, I mean, obviously I've met Kanye, not obviously, but I have. I mean, years ago, many years ago. The young woman I was dating, who later became my wife, had a sister who was dating Dion Wilson, who you may know as No ID, who was a fairly well-known producer, and at one point was one of the best friends of Kanye West. But he has a tendency to burn through old friends for whatever reason. When you are in this situation, a situation of your own creation. Like this wasn't some vast conspiracy. It wasn't some MacGuffin, somebody snuck in there and convinced them to say these crazy things. No, these are things they believed and said of their own volition. There was no hostages taken, no gun against their head, right? If and when they apologize, and I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but it's clear that they believed the things they said. And I don't think their beliefs have changed, is what I'm trying to say.
Of course not.
And of course, what Kyrie said is, well, when did I say I supported these ideas? Remember that? I don't know if you watched him. When did I say I supported these ideas? Well, I mean, you never actually opened your mouth and said that, but you did blast it out all over your social media.
And you posted a link.
Yes, correct. So if this is something that you did not believe, did not support, and did not think was something people should see, you have an odd way of showing it, right? And once again, to quote Oswald Bates, first we must internalize the flatulation of the matter by transmitting the effervescence of the endangered proximity in order to further segregate the crux of my venereal infection. Because that's what Kyrie is basically saying. Maybe not in those words exactly, but he is clearly Oswald Batesing us right now. He is Oswald Batesing us, and then he's going to sit back like, I bet you never thought of that. Like, I love how his confidence is amazing, right? Because he can literally say something that is essentially what you just heard there, some word salad based in nothing, and then sit back like, gotcha.
I wondered how many Gen Z people right now are looking up Oswald Bates on.
Please look up Oswald Bates, and you're welcome. I cannot tell you enough. When I look at Kyrie, it goes like,
No, go ahead. I wasn't saying.
When I look at Kanye, I look at Ye. I'm literally seeing guys I see at the barbershop, right? I mean, we all know these guys. And depending on what kind of mood you're in, sometimes you feed them a little bit, watch them go. Sometimes you shut them down, depending on what kind of mood you're in, right? There's times when I just watch them go because, frankly, just as Oswald Bates is, it can be quite entertaining. The difference is that Kyrie and Ye are people that are known, well, in the case of, Kyrie all over North America and, a few places outside of. In the case of Ye, most of the world, most of the developed world at least knows who this guy is. And they both have a certain number of followers. Obviously, Ye has more than Kyrie, but both a decent number of people follow along behind them. And now I see people, it's so funny because not that long ago, Kanye was a total sellout, right? Now he's this martyr. Now he's this martyr for our cause. Whoa, excuse me? What? When did this happen? He didn't. Have you noticed that all these people are turning on him are people that he surrounded himself with? No one made him put these people around him. He had a whole circle of black people around him just a few years back that would have kept them from doing this, right? But he got rid of every single one of them. All, people are no new friends, not Kanye or Ye or whatever. No, exact opposite. No old friends. Nobody who knows him from the old days has left. Everybody, he's cleaned house, James. Shay, aka Rhymefest, Shay's gone, right? Dion, gone. Common, gone. It's a list. All of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's some people used to say, it was, when you get money, you move away. Well, Kanye moved away from his friends when he got money, and then when he thought that, he was invincible, then, all of a sudden he thought that he had this invincible platform. But getting back to Kyrie, do you think that there'll be another team that'll sign Kyrie as his contract expires?
Well, he's going to have to agree at some point to, as I said, appear hat in hand and penitent. And You don't have to cry, but a tear or two wouldn't hurt. Even if it's just the one glory tear, right down the left cheek, just like Denzel did, right? One manly, tough tear, right? We're not asking for to dissolve or just boo-hoo-hoo. No, one would be enough. But something that shows, truly he realized how wrong he is. They'll never do it again, that he understands the plight of the Jewish people, blah, blah, blah. Look, I want to be very clear that when I say that, I mean, this is going to sound funny, but literally some of my best friends are Jews. Shout out to Ronnie Gottler, who actually stood up for me at my wedding. I want to make it clear that you can be critical of something without hating it, right? But he's not being critical because that requires, once again, that you actually know what you're talking about if you're going to be critical of something. The problem with Kyrie, Conrad, the two of them really should do something together now. Is that even if he does at some point, quote unquote, apologize, you and I both know he won't mean it. And so you have to somehow either say to yourself, we don't care about all that stuff, but it's hard not to care about all that stuff when people who have corporate boxes are going to say, nope. Right? We're not renewing. We're not buying again. We're not ads. We're pulling our ads. Like, if it doesn't make dollars, James, it doesn't make sense.
Well,
it's still a bit. It's way too far gone to see that.
There might be a bootleg market for the Kyrie 8, but doesn't look like there's going to be a Kyrie 9 or 10 in the mix anytime.
Well, not there. Now maybe he can hook up with Kanye, and maybe they can put out the Air Yeezy together or whatever. But yes, clearly his relationship with Nike is at an end.
Good evening, Mr. Scott.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thanks for allowing me in. I've been waiting in the queue. I didn't know there's been a couple of shows where I've waited in the queue, and I've just never brought on. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, JK3. I really do.
I know, and I'm sorry that we keep oppressing you there, Mr. Scott, and suppressing your point of view. But tonight you're here, and
allow him to ventriloquate his
we were talking about in Living Color. Do you remember that show?
Yes, I certainly do. Yes, great show. Great show. Wyman, very talented. Wyman's, I love those guys. They're great.
And we were talking about the particular skit, where he plays the convict that uses all the big words, but he uses
Oswald Bates.
Do you remember that skit? and we were kind of comparing those skits to Kanye and Kyrie's apology. So we were making kind of a nostalgic trip down memory lane and having a little fun. But Mr. Scott,
I missed that because everybody knows my thoughts on the rec game and how disdainful I am of the rec game, and what it's done to bring us down into the degradation of the areas that we are now. Even though there have been rappers, and actually in saying this, you give the shout out to the young man that was killed in the dice game, Takeoff.
Oh, Takeoff, yeah.
But he was, connected to some that really, there's substance to that. There is a very substance, but they won't really let us bring that out. See, what they do is they turn it around and they get all this language and all this negative stuff. But see, it started out with substance, and there is substance at the heart of it. Yes. Because what it is we're all part of this. We're all part of it, and I have disdain for how it's been taken over. That's
sure. But just so you know, there's people like No Name still out there. There's people doing amazing work in the community. And Common has started 2 schools, right? He's sent a bunch of kids to college. I mean,
he was here. He was here with the Sounds of Blackness for the George Floyd. He came up here.
Yep.
So yes, there are people that are doing consciousness things. I agree with you.
Right? A person who follows me on Twitter, of course, is Carlton Ridenour. You know, it's Chuck D, who is, in addition to being a tremendous musical artist, is also an artist. His actual degree is in graphic design. He does beautiful work. He's been influenced by Leroy Neiman. You can see that in some of the work that he does, his artistic work. And on top of that, he has tremendous and deep knowledge of basketball. His basketball podcast is fantastic.
But Mr. Scott, the last question that we were addressing was, do you think that Kyrie will find another team to sign with once his contract expires, or do you think this is it?
Well, I hate to say that it could be another Kaepernick thing. It could very well be that. I mean, he's already made a lot of money. He has money. Is there other avenues? And I think what happens with some of these folks that have money, they think that, you know, their name and this can transfer into other areas, but it doesn't. And see, that's what's going to be the big thing, I think, with him is, I mean, he really game out. He's still at the top. He didn't do it. He really, you know, and this all these things that they want him to do, get on his knees. I will never do this again. Please don't hit me. Y'all, please. That rating, it's getting to a point of where but it could be a standoff because they got these supposedly these things to do. And if he says he's not going to do it, well, you know, they won't write no more checks. Well, I think he has a case. I think he has a case because he didn't do anything. He didn't. He just posted something that someone else put out there. He didn't say, "I believe in this. This is what I'm about." I think he has a case. But then again, you go that route. How long does that take to weed this out? How long does that take? And he's in his 30s now. So
right. But by the same token, if I post something from Father Conklin, or if I post something from David Duke, or if I post something from, like, if you post, whether or not you said, I support this or not, what are people supposed to think if you suddenly start promulgating things?
And when you talk about social media, when 45 was president, I posted a picture of him in a KKK uniform and got kicked off Facebook for 90 days. Never said a word. Just posted the picture up there on my, you know. But you know, it depends upon that algorithm or whatever it is.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that was right? Are you saying that they should have kicked you off for 90 days? Are you saying that's okay?
No, I'm not saying that it was right, but you know, neither did I think it was right when the judge sentenced my ass to jail either. Not that I wasn't guilty, but I didn't think it was
that's
right.
A whole other ball game.
Right. I mean, that's a whole right. Right. You know, so we're not going to bring it down to right and wrong. We're going to bring it down to what happened.
There you go.
There you go. You know, so you know the object. You know, what happened was when the next bus left, I was on it. It was, you know,
people love sewing. It's the reaping that hurts. That sewing can be a lot of fun. It's sweet, that sewing, but ooh, that reaping. Ooh, reaping not so much fun.
So, Mr. Howard, Mr. Scott, it seems that Dwight Howard is now playing in Taiwan and is out of the NBA. Just last year, he was with the Lakers. Truth or dare, do you think he'll be back in some teams' playoff run?
he's lucky to be in Taiwan. He's lucky that there was somebody that wanted somebody that can't play basketball to play on their team. So he hasn't been able to play, I don't know for how long. He can't shoot, he can't pass, he can't handle the ball, he can't catch the ball. So no, I don't think about Dwight Howard. He's out of there.
So,
He's out of
so,
there.
but everything that Bill, everything that Mr. Scott just said, isn't that true about the Lakers now?
Well, you can put together a pretty good team. I guess when Kyrie gets there, is Steph Marbury still over there? You got a pretty good team if this keeps up. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, Dwight Howard is essentially he's like hey, this guy looks like a basketball player. I think that's why people keep signing him, right? He looks like a guy who should be able to play basketball. Look at him, how tall he is. He looks very strong with long arms. He looks very much like someone who should be good at basketball. That is how it's working. They're not watching him. They're just looking at him like, oh, look at him. Oh, wow. It's like the dead parrot sketch on Monty Python. My parrot is dead, but look at the beautiful plumage. Sure, you have a dead parrot, but look how it looks great. It's a great looking dead
parrot. Bill, what's more surprising to you? The Bucks, I believe now they're 10-1.
Yep.
Or the Cavaliers being 9-2.
The Cavaliers being 9-2. You're talking to me?
I'm almost thinking, I'm almost thinking Rudy Gobert. I'm almost thinking Rudy Gobert and AD are almost like that type of a center. I mean, they're so limited. I mean, AD's on the ground all the time. He's hurt all the time, going to the locker room. Rudy Gobert, now he's had COVID again. It was in the protocol. He's the one that started the whole mess in the first place.
Yes,
he's the first one.
There it is. That's right. It's Rudy Gobert's fault.
And so
touching everything.
So he gets it again, but he's brought into Minnesota as a savior. And as I've said on this program and other programs, he is not Kareem. He is not Moses Malone. He is not. He is going to get a.
He's not Walter Bell's Bellamy.
He's not Bob Lanier. He's not, Artist Gilmore. You can go on and on and on. And so how he's going to play with Towns is the big thing with the Timberwolves. I don't want to get off track. I'll let you get back to,
but since you let the cat out of the bag there, Mr. Scott, we got to talk about them Timberwolves. They did manage to beat the Lakers the last time the Lakers were in town, but like you said, Rudy is Rudy. You gave up 10 players. Do you see
and that helped the Utah Jazz? We gave up all of our bench. Gave all of our bench to them. Malik Beasley, the starting center, gave up all of our bench and draft choices to them. That's why it's no good.
And we're going to talk about that next. Bill, what do you think? What's more surprising, the Bucks at 10-1 or the Cavs at 10-2?
Well, since my preseason prediction for champion was the Bucks, I'm going to say the Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers had some interesting pieces. I think people thought they'd be improved. I don't think anybody thought they'd get off to this kind of start. And I don't think I'm alone in looking at the Bucks and thinking they were going to be great. I think there's other people who looked at that team and thought they'd be great. I don't think people saw greatness, this kind of greatness, or greatness. It's early, but I'll say that they'd be this good this soon consistently from the Cavaliers. That's more surprising.
In the West, Bill, more surprising, the Jazz at 9-3 or Golden State at 4-7.
I think most of us thought that Golden State would come down to earth a bit. Maybe not 4-7, but I thought they'd be right around 500. So once again, I'm going to say the Jazz, being a little more surprising. I thought Golden State would come to earth.
Yeah, and 5 of those losses are on the road.
Yep.
Mr. Scott, see, it seems like your Jazz, your scraps from the Timberwolves have turned it into a winning team down there in Utah. What happened? How come they couldn't gel like that together in Minnesota?
And it's not only the trade, but also they end up with Lauri Markkanen, who was a number 1 draft pick of the Timberwolves, along with Zach LaVine. Yep. So even though they ran Garson Rosas, they ran him out of here because he was having with secretary or something. I don't know what happened. But he brought Beasley in. This team was really kind of coming together, and so now they try to think, swing for the fences. That's this is analytics. See, they would get Rudy go there, put.
You're cutting out on us there, Mr. Scott.
And we're all stars already. Now we're going to go right to the playoffs. He ruined the team with the Jimmy Butler trade.
Well, Bill, maybe you got a little bit more of that than I did, but what do you think of?
What I could catch was, once again, Mr. Scott misunderstanding what analytics are. But here's what I can tell you. There are essentially two main philosophies, but sort of a third philosophy of building a team in the NBA. And one of them is essentially
this is analytics. You can't win with this. This is not going to help you win.
You say that, but the Golden State Warriors are one of the most analytically driven teams in the league. The Spurs are one of the most analytically driven. Now, obviously, they're down now, but they were on the forefront of the analytical, revolution in basketball, and it worked. I mean, think about who Popovich is. A 10-year Air Force officer in what? Military intelligence, right? Speaks fluent Russian. He's one of the people that was on the forefront of bringing in information, because that's all analytics are, just information. That's all it is. Now, you can say what people do with the information. That's a whole other thing. That's where human judgment gets involved. But analytics are just information. Why did Paul Brown win 7 championships in 10 years? Analytics. He brought it to football. Nobody was analyzing teams, what they did on certain down and distances, things like that, until who? Paul Brown. It was a huge strategic advantage. They won 7 championships in 10 years because of it. So if you know what you're doing with the information, you'll win. You can't blame it on information, though. The information isn't the problem. It's what people do with it, Mr. Scott. But getting back to what you asked. When you're building a team, there's two main and sort of a third way. And one of them is to say, I don't want to be patient. I don't want to try to develop. I don't want to try to scout a bunch of young guys. I want to go after a bunch of established stars and then maybe grab a couple of slightly cheaper veterans and hope it all comes together, right? And sometimes it works. I can't say it never works, but it's always going to be something that can only work for a short amount of time, right? Because the contracts and age at some point catch up with you. Sometimes the contracts get you before the age. Sometimes the age gets you before the contracts. But teams with money and not a lot of patience often choose to go that route. Then there's the classic draft and develop, right? Which is what the Spurs were. They were a draft and develop organization. But to be a good draft and develop organization, you have to get it right? Which is where analytics come into play. How do you decide who to bring into your organization, right? You take a deep dive into what fits your system.
I'm going to respond to this. I'm going to but I'm going to get on my other computer because I seem to be breaking up on this computer. So I'm gonna get on my other computer because I'm on to debunk analytics, and I'm gonna debunk this thing once and for all. I'm tired of it. So I'm gonna debunk. Get on the other computer.
Well, first learn what it is, but then once you've done that, then go ahead and debunk away. Now, getting back to your question, then once again, drafting and developing, and then you've got sort of a middle path, right? And it's a little bit of both, and that's what a lot of successful teams have done. Once again, we just talked about Golden State. They're a little bit of a mixture. The heart of their team, right, is 3 or 4 really core players you draft and you develop them, you bring them up, and you build around them. And then the rest of your team, your bench, your secondary scorers, some of your other guys, you get through picking up older players that are on middle-tiered contracts, right? You're not going for superstars. When you're bringing in older players, they're guys who maybe used to be stars, but not current stars. Iguodala is a perfect example of the kind of player that they prize, right? A guy who was a 25-point-a-game guy at one point in his career, but now he's a guy that's going to play 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 16, 17 minutes. And then if you really need him due to injury or due to foul trouble or whatever, and you need him to play half a game or more, he can do it. And he can even take over a game every once in a while if you need him to, but that's not his role. Those are the 3 main ways of building a team nowadays, where it's I've got no time, I just want to slap together a couple of superstars, 2 or 3 superstars, and then a couple of older guys who are sort of, glue guys, and then, throw them out there and hope it works. Draft and develop, and then maybe you target a few guys, and then, like I said, sort of a mix where you have 3 or 4 key core players that you've developed in your system, and then you go around hopefully being smart about bringing in mid-priced or cheaper veterans, Prince, right? Tyshawn Prince, guys that maybe at one point in their career were seen as possible franchise players, and now are in the back half of their careers, but still have something to offer.
Do you remember when Chauncey Billups went to the Nuggets?
Yes.
To me that's a perfect example of what you're talking about, because Chauncey, we knew that he was past his career as a scorer, but he was still a leader. He was still a great tactician, and he knew the game of basketball, and he was a teacher.
Yep, terrific passer, still could play defense. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So
still post you up and get points on some smaller guards as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was more about Chauncey's knowledge when he went to Denver than it was about his actual time on the court. But I'm hoping I want Mr. Scott to come back and debunk our analytics here. But in the meantime, let's go on to some college football because once again, I feel like the stepchild. We've been passed over once again. Georgia is back once again as the number 1 team.
Yep.
TCU is now number 4.
Yeah, and they probably could be even higher, but yes, they are 4.
Wow. I really want to know about that one there, but anyway.
Well, who has more wins over top 20 teams than TCU? I'll answer that. Nobody.
But of those top 20 teams, of those teams that they have played in the top 20, how many of those were in the top 10? Do you really think that? Well, that's a question that we're going to ask down the line. So I get
because Ohio State can't claim half that many. So I think Ohio State's a very good team, but they don't have a very good resume.
You think that the Big Ten? Well, anyway, like I said, we'll talk about that.
I think there's 2 really good teams in the Big Ten, James. I watch a lot of football, and frankly, there's more good teams. There's no great teams in the Big 12 except TCU, but there's a lot of good teams, right? Texas is still good. Texas Tech is a good team, in fact.
And Texas will probably beat TCU this weekend, but that's another discussion.
I will make a nice little gentleman's wager with you if you believe that, but we'll get to that.
I definitely do. But anyway, Here's the thing for me. Okay, so Georgia is back at number one.
Yep.
Uh, I thought Tennessee was overrated when they got to number one. Anyway, I
Sure.
thought that was the,
They're
like
a
I said.
they're a top 4, top 5 team, but they should not have been number one. Sure, I agree.
Okay. Uh, but did Georgia also knock Hooker out of the Heisman competition?
No, no, they didn't. Uh, but it's no longer a shoe in. It never should have been a shoe in. But he's still in contention for it. CJ Stroud is, slowly but surely, sort of like the tortoise in the hare. He hasn't been as spectacular this year as he was last year, but he's doing well. And despite Alabama struggling, Bryce Young, behind a below average for Alabama offensive line, is still played at a high level. People are not talking enough about Max Duggan. Speaking of TCU, he's been terrific all year, leading that team back from double-digit, sometimes even late in games, double-digit deficits, and winning games in spectacular fashion. He's been terrific all year long. There's a lot of guys who should be in contention for the Heisman this year. They're just like with number one. I think Georgia is probably the most complete team in college football, but they're not unbeatable because they aren't as good as they were last year. At least along their defense, they aren't as good as they were last year. They're probably a little bit better on offense this year than they were last year.
But the competition isn't as deep as it was last year.
No,
either.
the competition is not as good as it was last year. Correct. The SEC is down. I think, like I said, I watched a lot of football. Both the Pac-12 and Big 12 are better this year than they were last year. Both the Big 10 and the SEC are not quite as good this year as they were last year, which is why Illinois was winning all those games, right? Because the Big 10 isn't as good as it was last year. Illinois got a little bit better, and the Big 10 as a whole got a little bit worse.
All things remaining constant. Do you think that the Big Ten conference game will be a preview of the first round of the college football playoffs, or a lot of rumors have it that the loser of the Ohio State Michigan game will be out of the playoffs?
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Right. This is where it comes down if TCU runs the table. So if TCU runs the table, they're in, right? Obviously. And now you're going to get a one-loss champion or a no-loss champion from the SEC. I mean, if whoever wins the SEC gets in, they have one loss, no losses, maybe even two, but they get in because the SEC always gets a pass. So that's 2 spots already taken. Now, to get two Big Ten schools in, that means that you need to have the Pac-12 champion have 2 losses. It's not impossible, but it could happen. It means that you need the ACC champion to have 2 losses, which again could happen. Somewhat unlikely, but could happen. Luckily, this year you don't have to worry about a non-Power 5 team. There's no non-Power 5 team that's a compelling case this year. So you really don't have to worry about the Power 5. You only have to worry about the Pac-12, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 10. And since the SEC as a whole is just a tiny bit down, the Big 10 is a tiny bit down, the ACC is a tiny bit down, but the Big 12 and Pac-12 are both better this year than they were last year. It'll be difficult to keep both the Big 12 and the Pac-12 out unless their champions have 2 losses.
Okay, now, so you would rank an undefeated TCU or a one-loss Clemson over a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State?
Well, once again, it comes down to quality wins. Now, Clemson doesn't have a lot of quality wins, but TCU has a bunch of quality wins. It would be almost impossible to rank a one-loss, non-champion Big Ten school over TCU, which will at that point have 5 wins over teams that are ranked by that point, right? Because to have won the championship of the Big 12, they'll have to have beaten 5 ranked teams. There's nobody in the Big Ten that can come close to touching
that. It'll be interesting to see whose side they come down on here, because as I said, I'm looking for Texas to beat TCU. What kind of gentleman's bet are you proposing?
I mean, you tell me, sir. I'm fine with something slightly embarrassing. I'm fine with monetary. Like, I'll leave that to you. Like, you seem creative, but I think that it will be a very good close game. I think Texas will have a lead late, and just like they've done all season, TCU will come back and score at the end.
Yeah.
I've seen every single TCU game this year. They all end the same way.
But soon, you know what they say. You can't, you can't keep on poking the bear and all, and he's gonna stay asleep. Sooner or later,
But
it's gonna
see,
come back
the
to bite you.
problem with that analogy is TCU is the bear. Have you seen Quentin Johnston? Have you watched that kid?
I will be the guy that watches Ohio State's every game, not TCU. So,
Okay, I watch them all. He's the best wide receiver in the country who's not playing on Sundays.
I still think that might be my guy from Pitt. He's a U.S. He's a
Oh, I love that kid too. No, I'm a big Addison fan, but Quentin Johnston, man, that kid, he's special. He's super special. His height, weight, speed, body control, and to be able to run routes like that at that size. I'm not about to compare anybody to Randy Moss. I'm not going to do that. But
please.
What I will say, he's not far off from Mike Evans.
Okay. College Mike Evans or first year Mike Evans?
I mean, he's at least as good as Mike Evans was last year in college, and possibly a little bit better. I think Mike Evans might have been a little faster in a straight line, but I think Johnston is a little more elusive, and I think he has maybe even slightly better routes than Evans did at that same point in their careers.
Does he have better hands?
He has just as good, maybe better, but just as good. He has great hands. He has tremendous ability to go over people and snatch balls off of their heads. But he's not just that. He's great after the catch. I mean, look at him once he has the ball in his hands. In fact, that's where I think he's even better than Mike Evans, is once he has the ball in his hands. He's even more elusive in the open field than Evans.
Yeah. You mean yards after catch?
I mean breaking tackles. I mean juking people. I mean all that. Okay. Watch him. I don't know what else to tell you. Watch him.
I definitely will. Of course, we don't have any Colts fans on tonight, and I'll be talking with Mike tomorrow.
Right.
But as soon as I heard of this, I was shocked.
Frank Wright, yes, yeah.
No, not Frank Wright. Jeff Saturday.
Well, I mean both, but I mean one doesn't happen without the other. Yes, I mean I heard. Yes.
Well, I think we all knew that Frank Wright.
Well, I thought you'd make it to the end of the season. I was a little surprised they pulled the trigger quite so early, but yeah, I knew he would be gone. I just didn't think this.
Yeah. But Jeff Saturday, the last time he coached was, consulting his high school football team. Maybe the neighbors' pee wee football. But Irsay says that he has confidence. Of course, what else the hell is he supposed to say? I mean,
he can't very well say I have no confidence. This is going to be an unmitigated disaster.
But is this proof that and I know we use this term loosely now because you're talking about, even with the Colts, you're talking about a top 10 pick, I would assume. But are they taking to get a quarterback again? Are they looking for another what's his name? The other kid that was there, and then he ended up retiring.
Wait, what are you talking about now?
The other, who was the other quarterback that the Colts had at the end? Luck.
Oh, you're playing Andrew Luck. Okay. Yes,
Yeah. I think Mr. Scott is back too. But go ahead before we get Mr. Scott back on.
So we're talking about Jeff Saturday again, or
Yeah, we're talking about the hiring of Jeff Saturday by the Colts.
yeah.
What,
Well,
where
I
did he
mean,
go?
the thing about that is, to me, it feels very much like somebody definitely wanted to move on from, and I get that. I mean, like I said, I knew Frank Reich was a sort of a dead coach coaching, but they didn't have someone they felt good about, apparently, to put in there as, you know, as you normally have in mind when you're firing a coach who the interim is going to be. They must not have seen anybody or liked anybody they thought, and I don't know. It just feels very strange to me. Yeah, I don't know. Very weird. And so, just that he's an amazing story, right? He's literally the manager at an electrical supplies store in North Carolina, right, in Raleigh, when an old teammate of his, who himself is an undrafted free agent, right, goes to Bill Polian, right, after practice, still reeking of sweat, right, says, you probably don't know who I am or something like that, but I have a friend who's selling electrical supplies who's better than any center that we have on this team right now. And I can only imagine Bill Polian's face. I wish I remember the guy who said it. That guy should deserve to be remembered, whoever it was, and I don't remember you, so I apologize. Nate Hobgood Chitrick is who it was. So he says, there's a guy, who whipped all those first-round draft picks at Carolina every day. And Polian, to his credit, says, I love it. We'll bring him in for a workout. They sign him as a free agent in 1999, and as they say, the rest is history. Originally, he's a backup at guard, starts a little bit left guard, gets 2 regular season starts that first year, and then 2000, he takes over the job at center and holds that job, except for days he missed due to injury, for the rest of his career until, of course, he ends up with the Packers for, I can't remember how long, but not long. I guess, I don't know, a year or two. And then I guess he eventually gets benched, I think, and then retires after the Pro Bowl. Signed a 1-day contract, of course, with the Colts. 13 out of 14 years he's been there. Yeah. But Hebron Christian Academy, in case you're wondering, that is his coaching resume. He was the head coach at Hebron Christian Academy. He ended up resigning from that position, but he did manage to go 20-16 in his time at Hebron Christian Academy. They made the playoffs 3 times and won state quarterfinals in 2019. So shout out to Hebron Christian Academy in beautiful Decula, Georgia.
Okay.
But yeah, that's his resume.
Yeah. So 3-6-1, I believe. I mean, what is a successful season if it's not getting a top 10 draft choice?
Well, this is the point I was making. That's why I wonder why they didn't just play out the string with Frank Reich. But I guess they're trying to speed up the tank. I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly is going on here, but they have an opportunity here.
Speed up the tank. I have to look that one.
Yes, I guess they're going to speed up that tank. They're going to go. It's on a a decline. It's going to go faster going downhill this way. They have an opportunity now, I guess, to kick the tires on some young coaches and see who they want to keep around. I don't know, but it's a very strange situation because, like I said, traditionally it's your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, or sometimes a very respected position coach who's been around the league a long time, and that's not what happened here. So it's a not a unique situation, but a strange situation, and I wish Jeff Saturday all the success. He's a likable person. I've watched him from his time in North Carolina. Obviously my dad went there. I'm a huge fan of the Tar Heels. The first college sports I ever watched in my life was September 17th, 1970 on the campus of North Carolina. So, very much a fan of the program and of him as a person. I'll be fascinated to see what they do because it's rare that you see someone get their first ever NFL coaching experience of any type, right, at this level. I mean, even though most of the college coaches, when we talk about the Pete Carrolls, Pete Carroll, of course, had been twice an NFL head coach. Saban had been a position coach under Bill Belichick. I mean, when you talk about college coaches coming up, most of them have some sort of professional experience. Even Steve Spurrier had a little bit of professional experience in the USFL and arena leagues as a coordinator. I think maybe even as a head coach in one of the arena leagues before he became an NFL head coach. I mean, this guy has only coached from 2017 to 2000, I think it was 17 or 16 or 17 to 2020 or whatever at Hebron Christian. Now, maybe they were running a very complex, very schematically advanced high school program. I don't know. I will admit I have not seen the Hebron Christian Academy playbooks. But
he brought his old coach playbooks with him. Yeah, okay.
Maybe. Like I said, I can only imagine. I have no idea what they actually ran, but he knows football. Like I don't want to make it clear. I'm not denigrating the man's knowledge. Peyton Manning himself said that that's one of the smartest football people he's ever been around. He's been around a lot of smart football people.
Yeah,
but it's very different.
As a head coach,
well, live fire exercises are good to prepare you, James, but they aren't combat, are they? They're not the same. It's not the same. It is not the same.
Although the results can be disastrous on either side, it's not the same.
They can, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Not the same.
Yeah.
So yes, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think the one good thing is that he's likely to be a good listener. My understanding is that he's a guy who's willing to take, gain knowledge and take advice from others. So I'm assuming that some of the veterans and the few surviving coaches from the previous staff will, I guess, help as well. But I'll be fascinated. I'll put it that way. I will be fascinated to see what the Colts look like.
Yeah, I am too. Here's a very strange kind of prediction, and I saw this in Football Focus, and I want to get your take on this. Okay, the Giants earn the 7th seed, and the Jets are eliminated. Yay or nay? And if this is true, which NFC conference do you think is most likely to have 3 teams in the playoffs if the Giants are going to be a 7th seed?
I don't think the Giants are going to be a 7th seed. I think it'll be higher than that. And the other thing is I think the Jets certainly could make the playoffs. I mean, they've beaten the Bills once already. They're only 1 game behind the Bills. And if they beat the Bills again, I'm not saying they will, but if they beat the Bills again, not only do they make the playoffs, James, they win the East most likely. I mean, of the two things, I think the more likely thing is, though I don't think it's likely, is that the Giants finished 7th, but I think the Giants finished higher than 7th. So I don't think either of those things are terribly likely, but of the two, I guess the more likely would be the Giants collapsing it a little bit and slipping to the 7th spot.
Okay, Mr. Scott is back. We're going to table our discussion here because Mr. Scott is going to bury analytics once and for all. So, Mr. Scott, you have the floor.
Well, I hope you can hear me. I don't know why I can't get on my other computers that have better reception. But basically, it's a fraud, okay? Analytics had nothing to do with the skyhook. Could analytics stop the skyhook? If it could stop the skyhook, why didn't they use analytics? They couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Can it stop the overhand right, George Foreman? No. Analytics is just numbers. You kind of have people that have the heart, that have the will, that have the ability to do what you need to do. And so
But
if you're going to just rely on numbers, they relied on numbers to bring Miguel Sano in here in the Twins. They said Miguel Sano was just the greatest player ever. Okay? Put him out in right field, disaster. Put him in third base, disaster. Heard all the time. Finally, now they cut bait with him. See, these numbers are not going to help you win. They are not. It's the people. It's the people that are going to get in and get the job done. And so analytics, meta-analytics, it's
so this is the fun thing about
they come up and manipulate people.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on.
Okay.
Do you, when you talk about boxing, do you think that analytics had anything to do with the fact that Muhammad Ali won the Rumble in the Jungle?
No,
You don't think that Muhammad Ali looked back on the tape and said, "Well, look, he throws this many punches during the first 6 rounds. After round number 8, I can kick this big motherfucker's ass because he can't do nothing."
So that's not analytics. See, that's not analytics.
Information are analytics, Mr. Scott. That's all analytics are. That's information. So don't try to blame Miguel Sano on analytics because that's not how you got Miguel Sano. People who knew analytics knew Miguel Sano couldn't play dead in the cowboy movie. So don't blame analytics for that. So here's the actual factual, right? The revolution in football in analytics can be traced back to 2 individuals. One of which I mentioned, Paul Brown. The other which is Tex Schramm, and Gil Brandt, right? So Tex Schramm literally hired a bunch of people from IBM, International Business Machines, to help them with locating players, scouting players, even players who hadn't even played college football. And they found a couple players, some of whom were Hall of Famers who hadn't even played a lick of college football, like Rayfield Wright, right? And they found Renfro, who played college basketball, right? They found guys who fit a certain profile of what they did.
Culp was one of those guys too, wasn't he?
Well, Culp played both sports at Arizona State. He was an All-American wrestler and almost qualified for the Olympics. We lost a guy from Southern Illinois twice during the Olympic trials, so that's why he didn't make the Olympics. But they figured out a profile, a ideal player in essence for their system and what this player should look like, how fast he should be, how big he should be, how many games he should have played in college, all that good stuff. Did it always work? No, but it worked more often than it didn't work. And it gave them a huge leg up over their competition. So if you talk to Gil Brandt, if you talk to anybody who's actually used analytics instead of going on your own prejudices, you would soon figure out that people, smart people, know when and how to use analytics. It doesn't take away your judgment, or it shouldn't, right? Because that's laziness. It should inform your judgment. How do they figure out how much to charge you for your insurance, Mr. Scott? How do they figure that out? How much you pay for insurance? How do you think they figure that out? Did he go by feel? I feel like you should pay this much in insurance, Mr. Scott.
A very good example of the fallacy of analytics. Okay, I don't drive I used to drive my car all the time when I worked. I rarely use the car. I work at home, but my insurance keeps going up. My car gets older. Okay, the parts would be cheaper to replace this car because it's older. And so, no, that's a bunch of fallacy. It's a bunch of foolishness. Okay, well, and I'll give you another example. I'll give you one more example.
It better be good for you, but it's good for the insurance company, sir. But go ahead.
Well, forget insurance. Okay, 60s. Bart Starr would throw passes in the game. That student butt. Every Jim Taylor up the middle. Everybody knew it was coming. Everybody in the stadium knew it was coming. They couldn't stop it.
Well, I'm saying
I'm
was
glad you brought this up. Do you know what Coach Landry is by
team.
training?
It's
right. So I'm glad you brought this up because I want to get to the educational background.
Listen to those people.
Okay. So let's get to the educational background.
No. Hold on, guys. Let's get back to the show. We'll do the math show on Thursday or Friday. I'll make room
but I'll just leave you with look up feedback loop theory and Coach Landry with Dallas Cowboys and his engineering background.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Scott, I will definitely. I'm one with you. For a long time, I did not agree with analytics. In theory, because being old school, hey, if it works 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but hey, as we've seen, we evolved, so that doesn't work anymore. But Mr. Scott, what did you think about this uh, college football playoff race here? We see Georgia handle Tennessee last week, beat them by 2 touchdowns. We see TCU has pulled themselves up to number 4 in the rankings. Bill thinks that if TCU goes unbeaten and Ohio State and Michigan meet as unbeaten, the team that loses could possibly be out of the playoffs. Would you rank Ohio State or Michigan? Would you rank TCU or Clemson above Ohio State or Michigan if they had a one-loss record going into the playoffs? This is just your personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with these quarterbacks. I mean, just unbelievable. I mean, they're going to be Lamar. They're going to be Lamar Jackson if they get a chance, if they don't get moved. I'm Ohio State all the way. I think they're the. I think they're the. I watch these games. I watch. There's so much talent. But I'm gonna stick with my Ohio State. I think they're.
That's my Friday show shirt there when I have to talk to the boys from Michigan.
Well, anyway. well, you've been wrong before. You've been wrong before, so. Yeah.
Hey, at my age, I've been wrong many times. But but the good thing is, so far I've lived through all my mistakes. So that's the good thing. Yeah.
You and I both.
So, Mr. Scott, what did you think about the Colts hiring Jeff Saturday as their head coach, and he's never had any NFL experience as a head coach or as any other coach in any NFL
not quality
position.
control, not position coach, nothing.
Yeah.
I liked Frank Reich. I thought a lot of what's happening wasn't his fault. I mean, he doesn't have a quarterback. Andrew Luck, that was supposed to be the deal, and that bailed. And they've been trying to. They're hurt now, so. But the NFL is the NFL. I mean, wow, the enemy. But I guess in season, maybe you couldn't bring the enemy in. But it looks like nobody wants to give the enemy a chance. I mean, he never seems to get really serious interviews. Whereas the NBA, you're going to see some brothers coaching, but in football, it's they're all Trump. They're all 45 supporters. All the owners, they're all 45. So I don't agree with it at all. I mean, was he already on the coaching staff Saturday?
No. He has never coached on anyone's coaching staff at the pro level.
At best, you could call him a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
At best.
His only coaching experience, Mr. Scott, is at Hebron Christian Academy.
Yeah. Well, where is Jim Caldwell? Does anybody know where Jim Caldwell is?
I know exactly where he is.
Where is he?
But yes, unfortunately, he is not on an NFL staff at the moment.
Well, see that's probably the first call I would have made. But
Bill, I'm going to go off topic here for just a moment, because it is a question that I know a lot of us, especially those of us that have followed football for quite some time. Why do you think that, it might have been you, that we were talking about Arab Bieniemy and his interview. You said he might just be a bad interview. Do you think
that wasn't me? That was not something that was someone else. But what it really is the baggage, right? He's got some baggage, personal baggage, and sort of guilt by association, going really 2 or 3 incidents, some of them going back to his playing days at Colorado. And he was involved in another scandal later when he was coaching at Colorado. So that's, I think, a lot of it. And there's a perception, fair or unfair, that while he's one of Andy Reid's favorites, he's not as intricately involved in the design and planning of the offense as some other offensive coordinators are in other teams, because Andy Reid does so much of it himself. Now, that hasn't seemed to stop people like Matt Nagy from getting jobs, but yes, I am upset, quite frankly, about some of the things that have happened, not only to him but to some other coaches. And yes, Jim Caldwell has been a part of 2 Super Bowl winning teams, both in his time with the Baltimore Ravens, and also was the quarterbacks coach of the Colts when they won their Super Bowl as well. So he's had a lot of success, both at the college and the pro level. Obviously struggled a little bit in his time at Wake Forest, but then everyone does, because it's really hard. Almost everyone does. It's very hard to win there. Shout out to Jim Grove, who did put together a really good run there, but it's hard. And their current coaching staff is doing very well there also. But he should be a coach. I mean, he should be. He had some health issues a couple of years ago, but he's come back from them. He's ready to go back to work. And, he was with the XFL. That's the last place he had been I guess he wasn't even a head coach. He was a consultant to the XFL. And then he was on Brian Flores' staff as the quarterback's coach and assistant head coach. There, he's interviewed for the Jaguars job that went to Doug Peterson. And he interviewed for the Chicago Bears head coaching job that instead went to Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Mr. Scott, do you think that any NFC conference will most likely have 3 teams in the playoffs? Mr. Scott,
right now, the Vikings look very good.
Yeah, but no. I mean 3 from the same conference. Like, for instance, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, I mean 3 from the same conference. Like if the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Giants would make it.
Well, no. Well, they're all playing good now. They all have good records. So I mean, this is halfway. So is Zach going to come back with Dallas?
Zach is playing Sunday.
So
Zach's
he's going to
playing
be playing
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yep.
Wait,
Zeke's
about
not.
Zeke?
No, he said Zeke won't be playing, but Dak
Okay.
will be playing.
Oh, Dak. He said Dak.
And so I don't think the Buffalo quarterback is supposed to maybe not play against the Vikings. That they might be playing Case Keenum. And so that's a big game. That's a big game.
But you surely don't think that the Vikings, the Bears, and the Packers are going to make the playoffs.
Well, I don't think the Bears are. I mean the Bears,
And we all know how you feel about the Lions, so we won't even have to mention them.
No, Lions are not going to. Well, they beat the Packers though. Now the Lions beat the Packers. So
yes, they did.
I was hoping my nemesis Demetrius would be here because the Lions did beat the Packers.
Demetrius was
scheduled
Vikings
to
come on
go out there and beat Buffalo.
You think that's going to happen? I think they're playing at Buffalo, aren't they?
The Vikings can beat Buffalo. If they can beat Buffalo, I think that's the division. Buffalo, but then Case Keenum, I seen him do some magic.
He didn't he used to be your backup?
He was none just a he's been a starter. He's the one that was the quarterback during the Minnesota Miracle.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Bill, do you think the Giants have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley both pending free agency next year? Which one do you think will get the franchise tag, or do you think that both of them will be in different uniforms for the 2023 season?
I think that Barkley gets the franchise tag, and I think they managed to pound out or figure out a long-term deal with Daniel Dimes with their quarterback.
Mr. Scott, where do you think OBJ is going to end up? Do you think he's going to end up as a Cowboy or somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it could be a Cowboy. Yeah, that would be my first choice. I think that's where he goes. I don't see him going. I can't think of where else. I mean, San Francisco seems to be making some moves. But yeah, that would I'd go along with that if he comes back. If somebody's going to sign him, it's not a given yet.
Well, he's definitely back on fantasy football rosters as a free agent, hoping that somebody picks him up. Bill, what do you think? Is Dallas the best place for OBJ, or do you think he'll end up somewhere else?
My guess is somewhere else. I think that, I mean, if we're talking about places that, one, have room for him in terms of the cap space, he'll probably sign for a little less than he would have, normally, just due to the fact he's going to miss so much of the season. But he's still clearly not going to sign for, pennies on the dollar, or he'd still be with the Rams, right? I mean, that's the whole reason why he isn't there. The Rams wanted to bring him back, and he told them how much he was going to cost. And they were like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. And the Ravens, similar deal, right? I mean, the Ravens ended up, you think Deshaun Jackson was their first choice? No, he was not. But once again, it was a pricing issue. So it'll have to go to somebody that's willing to, pay, maybe even slightly overpay for a player who's going to be giving them, 6 games or 5 games or something like that this season. He's going to want to go to a contender also. So you have to think about them being a contender and having the ability to pay him. That's a short list.
Well, Rams.
Did I hear you, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, and like a quarterback, he's a one-hit wonder. I mean, everybody thinks he was a high draft pick, but he had been in Detroit all this time, languishing. He's a one-hit wonder. I mean, he's not going to go back to no Super Bowl ever again. That's it. He had got in there, won it. He's not going back to no more Super Bowls. That's it for him. I mean,
you talking about OBJ?
He's talking about Matthew Stafford, I think.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, quarterback.
Oh, okay. We hadn't got to him yet, but okay. So, you think that this is more than just a sophomore slump that he's specifically done? Bill, it seems funny that Mr. Scott should say that because in fantasy football focus this week, all of the Rams, with the exception of Cooper Kupp, were considered, replaceable. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were talking about Tyler Higbee isn't even a viable tight end. So, what do you think? Is this Stafford's sophomore slump, or do you think that like Mr. Scott said, one hit wonder, one and done?
Sophomore slump, you said.
Well, sophomore because this is his second year with the Rams.
Right. No, I know what you meant. I mean, I think the real answer is neither. But okay. So the choices are sophomore slump or
one and done.
Or one and done. I don't think he's either one. I think that you might be seeing somebody who, first of all, let's not forget he's injured, right? He's playing with an injury both to the thumb and the shoulder right now. So you're seeing someone who's trying to push, as he often did in the past, try to push through an injury. 2, they have not found the answer to losing Andrew Whitworth, who, while he might not quite be a Hall of Famer, certainly Hall of really damn good. And they haven't found a replacement for him, right? So you don't have a franchise left tackle. You've got a quarterback playing hurt. I think those two things together are going to equal a quarterback who's not going to play very well.
Okay. Bill, do you think Kingsbury will be the next NFL coach to be fired?
I would like for that to be the case. I never thought he should have gotten the job in the first place, to be perfectly honest. But I have a feeling that won't be the case, but I'm rooting for it. Yeah, so if it's up to me, the answer would be yes. But I think someone else goes before him.
Any names you want to throw out there?
Sure, why not? So amongst the names, I mean, Ron Rivera is clearly on sort of a tipping point. He's been there just long enough that if you don't see improvement, it's hard to justify keeping around. And once again, I'm a big fan of Chico Rivera. I've been a fan of his since I watched him, be an all-Pac, it was Pac-10 in those days, linebacker back at Cal. I watched him in his time here as a valuable reserve for the Bears and become a really good defensive coach and eventually a head coach. But first of all, it's a program in flux anyway. And if they do end up either through force or through whatever, having their ownership change, that probably means the new ownership is going to want to clean house anyway. There's a bunch of things pointing to him probably not surviving anything short of a sort of miraculous closeout to the season, which I can't fully rule out, but it's not super likely. Who else is probably in danger?
Just one was good.
Okay.
Mr. Scott, the Chargers haven't made the playoffs since 2018. Will they make the playoffs this year or not?
Boy, they just seem to be kind of spinning their wheels. The Chargers just seem to be middle. I, boy, I don't really see anything to get excited about with the Chargers. I really don't. Um, I know they're home territory, and you're a real homer. I know you're a
Uh,
homer, James,
you,
but
you, do
I
you see
I, I
that
hate to
sign?
see
Do you see
much.
that sign behind me, Mr. Scott?
Um,
You see this hat here? They'll
but
say
that whole
Pittsburgh.
area, them Denver.
That's a long way from Pittsburgh. I don't. I got no loyalties to the AFC West, but uh,
Well, Pittsburgh, they're done. We don't have to worry about them this year. We don't have to even worry about them. So,
no, we don't. No, we don't. We don't have to worry about them this year. But I'll be able to talk trash when the playoffs come because I think Minnesota will be one of the first teams out. But we'll talk about that when the playoffs come. Um,
why, why,
uh,
why shots? Why do I get all these shots? I mean, I might have to throw a flag. I mean, I'm going to throw a flag on these some of these. I'm going to throw a
Mr. Scott,
flag.
I know you're not crying wolf the way you talk, the way you torture Demetrius every time he's on the show. the way the way you talk about the Lions. By the way, gentlemen, Demetrius will be back soon. He was
Good.
supposed to be on tonight, but his wife had a slight setback. So
Yeah, I wish you my best. I mean, my nemesis. It's not to say that when you don't have your nemesis, it makes you rise to the occasion. So, yeah.
yeah, but he has expressed he wants to come back and be a part of the show. So as soon as he can come back, he will. Bill, the Bungles, they're a game behind the Ratbirds, and they're facing the second toughest remaining strength of schedule. Bill, do the Bungles have to win to get in, or do you think a wild card will come out of the AFC North?
I think they would have to win it to get in. I don't think a wild card comes out of the AFC North. I think that the AFC North only gets their champion.
And it'll be like what you say they have to win to get in, right?
They'd have to win. They're not going to, but yes, they would have to win to get in.
Okay. Mr. Scott, can the Redbirds win if Lamar Jackson has to throw the ball? You remember all this. I think all of his wide receivers are either hurt or on IR, except for Duvernay. And who is it? They just picked up
Yeah.
Drake.
It's,
I think we lost you.
Bateman is out. I'm not sure how long he's out. Rashad Bateman, but
Yeah.
Baltimore, their quarterback. I mean, I think boy. If they can hold the ball, I mean, he'll get it to you. He will definitely. This guy he's very dangerous. And their defense. Oh man, they got some monsters on their defense. I like that team. I like that team to actually come out of the AFC.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, Bill, do you think that the Ratbirds can win if Lamar has to throw the ball?
Well, I mean, Lamar does have to throw the football. It's not like they run the ball every play. They have they are one of, I think, 4 or 5 teams that are, right around 50-50. They're obviously most of the league are passing teams, but the Browns, the Falcons, the Ravens, who else? I think there's at least one other. They're right around 50-50. But I mean, they've made a lot of big plays in their passing game, like Isaiah Likely, right? His welcome to the NFL moment. He had a couple of key interceptions, including a touchdown that helped lead to a victory. They were intending to take more deep shots. I mean, even though back part of his career,
what role is Likely going to have when Andrews comes back?
He'll still have a very strong role. So he and Andrews will be doing slightly different things. You're going to see Isaiah Likely, when he's blocking, he'll be wham blocking. They'll put him in motion. Remember Clint Didier?
Yeah.
Okay, remember the two tight end offense they ran with Don Warren and Clint Didier? Now, obviously, Andrews is better than any tight end that they ever had in the Washington Times with Coach Gibbs. But a better version of that 2 tight end offense, because both those guys are more athletic. But you're going to see him doing some lead blocking and wham blocking, and then he'll be doing some of those wide delays, right? Where you think it's a block, he then slides off and takes off up the seam. He's terrific at that. He killed people with that in college. He'll keep doing it in the NFL. They're going to get plenty of balls thrown to their tight ends. Both of them will get plenty of opportunities to touch the ball. Their running back will also get touches in the passing game. And yes, obviously the remaining receivers like Duvernay and Demarcus Robinson will get balls thrown their way as well.
All right. Week 10 predictions, guys. Mr. Scott, your favorite part of the show. The Falcons, -2.5 at the Panthers. This is tonight's game. Right now, we saw last week it went down, with 6 minutes left. It was 12 points ahead with a 13.5 point spread. So they lost that one. Right now, the Jaguars are ahead by 10. We'll consider that one covered. Mr. Scott, the Seahawks +2.5 at the Bucks. Geno Smith and the Seahawks been doing pretty good. They beat Tom Brady.
Well, it's like I've been saying, Geno Smith is on a roll. He's funk on a roll. I just saw pulled out last week. He's like a snake. Cut the head off. You can't cut it. You can't out. Well,
You going with the Seahawks?
I'm Bucks.
I didn't hear which one he said.
I wasn't sure either.
You say you was going with Geno, or you going with Brady?
Oh, what, you didn't hear me?
No,
I'm going with the Bucks.
Oh, okay. The Vikings getting 7.5
Brady
at the Bills. Who you got? You taking that 7.5 at the Bills, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Scott. Okay.
I'm going to assume Mr. Scott's taking the Vikings. Bill, who you got? The Seahawks or the Bucks?
I'm going to take the Seahawks, but I think it'll be a shootout. I think the Bucks make it interesting.
Oh, okay. So you both have the others. Mr. Scott has the Bucks, and you have the Seahawks. The Vikings plus 7.5 at the Bills.
That's a
Bill,
lot. That's a lot of points to lay. I do believe that the Vikings will not lose by 7.5 or more, but I don't see a way they get out of there with a victory. But I think that they'll deny the Bills the cover.
okay. Uh, Bill, the Lions
Yeah,
plus
that
three and a
is
half.
going to change.
At
That line is going to.
what you say about that line, Mr. Scott?
Well, I think it's going to change if the Bills doesn't play. If Case Keenum plays, that line's going to come down.
Well, right now, Vegas still got Allen playing, and he's not. He's listed as questionable, not out. So we'll see. Of course, they're saying it's a game time decision, so we'll see. And the okay, Mister Scott, the Lions plus 3.5 at the Bears. Who you got, Mister Scott? You must be on a delay.
No, better.
Uh, uh,
I think they're a better team.
the Bears? You say you think the Bears are a better team?
Bears are a better team. The quarterback's really coming on. I think the Lions, yeah, they beat the Packers, but boy, I don't know what to say about that. I still think the Packers are going to make some noise.
Yeah, they're gonna make a lot of noise when they get rid of stars. I mean, not Star, but Aaron Rodgers. Just like we waited too long to get rid of Big Ben. Uh, who do you think? The Broncos plus 3.5 at the Titans, Mister Scott.
Oh, I like Tennessee. I mean, they
Okay.
just kind of give the ball to the big man and sit on you. I mean, I think that's
Okay. Uh, Bill, who you got? The Lions plus 3.5 at the Bears.
Um, yeah, I think the Bears can cover that.
The Broncos plus 3.5 at the Titans.
Hmm. Hmm. A lot of things about. We see we had. Let me think about this. And you said the line was what on that game?
3.5.
Yeah, that's probably about right. I will. And who? And they're playing at.
Tennessee.
I'll take Tennessee.
Okay. Um, and the Jags getting 9.5 at the Chiefs.
Oof. I will take the Jags. I don't think. I think Kansas City wins, but I don't think they cover 9.5.
Mr. Scott, who you got? The Jags 9.5 against the Chiefs.
done.
Huh? I didn't hear you, Mr. Scott. The Jags plus 9.5 at the Chiefs. You hear me, Mr. Scott?
No, I'm kind of breaking up pretty bad here.
So did you take the Jags or the Chiefs?
Well, it's too many points. I can't give up that many points.
Okay. What about the Clowns getting 3.5 playing Miami?
Miami seems to be another funk on a roll. I mean, I think they're even though I do like the Browns. I really do. I like the Browns, but I think Miami at home, they score a lot of points. I think it'll be a high scoring game, and I think they'll do it.
Okay. What about the Texans getting 6.5 from the Giants playing at the Giants?
Oh, I'll take the Giants all day.
Okay. Bill, the Clowns against the Dolphins. Three
And
and a
what?
half.
3.5. I think the Dolphins can cover that.
The Texans getting 6.5 playing the Giants.
Texans getting 6.5. Texans, oof. I will say the Texans deny the Giants that cover. I think they win it, but I think not by 6.5.
Bill, the Saints giving the Steelers 2.5 at home.
Okay. 2.5. Ooh, that's narrow. Uh, I'll take the Saints.
Traitor. Uh, okay, Mr. Scott, the Saints against the Steelers 2.5. You got me, Mr. Scott?
What was that?
The Saints against the Steelers. The Saints giving the Steelers 2.5.
Well, the Steelers seem in such disarray, but they're at home, so I guess I would take the Steelers.
Okay. The Colts getting 5.5 playing the Raiders at the Raiders, Mr. Scott.
Boy, cold. Sometimes you fire your coach. It does something to the team for a bit, but I think the Raiders they need to start winning. Yeah, so I got to go with the Raiders. I'll give
Well,
the
they were
point.
winning. They were winning last week, and all of a sudden, at the end of the score that counted, they were behind. Mr. Scott, the Packers. I mean, excuse me, the Cowboys giving the Packers 5.5 at the Packers.
Because the last, I gotta say, this is the last. I can't get this.
Huh? We missed you. The Packers or the Packers or the Cowboys, Mr. Scott.
Packers. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Packers.
we got you. Uh, Bill, the Colts and the Raiders. Colts giving getting 5.5.
Yeah, that feels like a sort of a better trap game, but I'll take the Ravens.
No, the Raiders.
Oh, Raider. Oh, that's different. And they're playing where?
They're playing in Las Vegas. It's the Colts and the Raiders.
And they're getting 13.
No, the Colts are getting 5.5.
Oh, 5.5. Ugh. Um. Uh. I will ride with the Raiders very grudgingly.
The Cowboys giving 5.5 to the Packers. The Packers are playing at home. Bill,
Oh, that was to me. The Packers are getting how many points?
the Packers are getting 5.5.
I think it's a get right, bounce back game, and while they might not win it, I don't think they're going to lose by 5.5 or more. So the Packers deny them the cover.
Bill, the Cardinals getting 3.5 from the Rams, and the Rams are at home.
Oof. You said they're playing in Arizona? No, they're playing.
They're playing in L.A.
Oh, they're playing in LA. And the line you said was
LA.
3.5.
Oof. Once again, it's about right. I will go with Arizona, grudgingly.
Who you got, Mr. Scott? The Rams or the Cardinals?
Not played smart football. They have not. I gotta go with the Rams at home. Even though I don't think Rams are going anywhere, but I think they'll win that game.
Okay. Mr. Scott, the Chargers minus 6.5 at the 49ers.
I don't see that. 49ers. Well, I'll take 49ers.
Okay.
I'll take
and
them.
Monday
I think they're.
and Monday night, Mr. Scott, the Commanders getting 10.5 at the Eagles.
The Commanders they're no good. So I'm going to take Philly. I hate taking double-digit points, giving up double digits. Gee, that's. I just think they're so much better. They don't have a quarterback in Washington. They're in disarray. I think Philly could be the best team in the C. Actually,
Bill, the the Chargers getting 6.5 at the 49ers.
Yeah. Obviously it was a tragic situation all the way around. And you said this game was.
This game is in San Francisco.
It's in San Francisco. And the 49ers are giving
6.5 to the Chargers.
Oh, that seems like way too many points. I won't be shocked if the Chargers win it outright, but I don't. They're not gonna. I don't think they'll. Not cover 6.5.
All the people that the Chargers have out on defense, no Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen, and you think they're okay? All right, well, all right. The Commanders Monday night, Bill, getting 10.5 from the Eagles.
That was for Mr. Scott.
No, that was for you.
Oh, me again. Okay, it was, and they're playing in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And the line was 10.5.
Yep.
That's a lot of points. Yeah, I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to cover 10.5.
Oh, okay. Mr. Scott, your final thoughts for the evening. As always, glad having you on the show. Give us your final thoughts.
I'm just wondering how this Kyrie thing is going to shake out. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the most interesting things in sports right now. I mean, when his 5-day suspension is up, is he going to be able to play? Is he coming back? Is this going to all go away?
The fifth game is tomorrow, I think. I think his 5-game suspension is up tomorrow, but it's not cemented that it could be more than 5 games, but we know it's at least 5 games because the 5th game is coming up. So you're definitely right about that. But then, the difference, I don't know. I think
No,
Kyrie's loss is not as immediate because
so
Kyrie.
got out.
Uh, what were you saying, Mr. Scott? What were you saying, Mr. Scott? Did you finish your thought? Bill, your final thoughts for the evening.
Okay. So obviously, this is a fascinating time of year, a time of endings of some things, beginnings of others. Obviously, we're getting close to the end of the seasons in a couple of sports and the beginning of seasons of things like wrestling and basketball. And so, shout out to my friend on the show, Mr. Scott. It was on this day in 1975 that a man they called the Killer, Harmon Killebrew, played the last, or was released, I guess, by the Royals, actually, of all people. He had spent his last season there with the Royals. He was released by the Royals, ending his 22-year Major League career. And he was a bit overshadowed um, by guys like Mantle and Mays, and overshadowed by guys like Henry Aaron and other guys who played at the same time as him. And even to some extent, even guys like um, Yastrzemski, right? To some extent, even though, he had way more home runs, he was not seen as one of the top players of his era, though looking back in retrospect, he most certainly was. He went about his business rather quietly, despite having a nickname like the Killer. He was actually a rather soft-spoken, gentle individual. And despite the fact that he played pre-weight training, he entered the league at about 195 or 200 pounds, and by the end of his career, in his prime, he was probably close to 220 or 215. Had tremendous power. Could hit a ball 500, 550, maybe even 600 feet if the wind was going the right direction. And played in a lot of big ballparks. So when you look at his tremendous home run numbers, and he was one of the top, four guys at the time. At the time, obviously things have changed in terms of home runs. Playing in a lot of big ballparks, places that were pitchers' parks, because the age of the pitcher, right? The last golden age of pitching was in fact the late '60s and mid '60s. But he's not talked about enough. He's a Hall of. If someone could be an underrated Hall of Famer, the late great Harmon Killebrew certainly was. And so I want to remember him on this day in sports history.
All right, guys. Well, hey, as always, great having you guys join me for the usual Thursday night. And for those of you who don't know, me and Mike do a show on Fridays called "And the Winners Are." Be sure and grab us there. Bill, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and any articles or anything you might
Sure.
have up on
Yep.
the line.
So by Monday, I should have my defensive ends article on my not top 10 defensive ends. These are defensive ends outside of the top 10 that I think have an excellent chance to have good, strong pro careers. That pops up on Nuts and Bolts Sports the day after that. The Nutties for week 11, I guess it is. Week 11 of college football. The Nutties are the Nuts and Bolts College Football Award that I am, I guess, the curator of and creator of. And I'm going to launch a new show with a young man, Mr. Long, Friday evening. I don't know the details, but he's talked me into it. So I'm doing that. And then Saturday morning on YouTube for Nuts and Bolts Sports, you'll find College Football Forecast with my co-host Brock Vieira. And we'll be joined by a very special guest. You may know him, a man who runs the Steeler Fury podcast and Steeler Fury website, Will Masiak. He's at Accidental Zen on Twitter. And on Wednesday nights, you can catch us on No Huddle Necessary on Nuts and Bolts Sports. That'll be a great, great, great show. And I think that's everything. As always, you can find me on Twitter at either capital B, capital C, ARROLL at BCarroll138 or at 11Bravo138 on Twitter. That's ELEVEMBRAVO138. As always, it is a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor to be here.
Talk to you next week, man. You have a great night, and hey, make sure you guys watch your favorite team. And looks like things are getting a little closer. A little less than 3 minutes. It's 22-15. So enjoy the rest of the game, everyone. We'll see you next week right here on the Sports Script.
Yep.
Have a great night.
Good night.